Greetings. Welcome to my weekend market recap, 30th September 2023. I apologize for a bit of delay in starting today's session. There was a large Windows update. It took much more time than I expected, and that delayed the session. And even now, some of the programs are not running properly, but I can manage the market recap with probably with Q Elite if I cannot run Metastock. I am Sagar Nandi, retired IT professional swing trading stocks in the USA market as well as India market using the Q systems and techniques that I develop. You may contact me using my email ID info@superiorprofit.co or tradingprofitably@gmail.com. I regularly share live stock and market analysis on my website superiorprofit.co, X handle Superior Profit, and YouTube channel Trading Profitably. These tend to be high probability trades, truly high probability, because I like to combine the technical direction of the stock along with markets, sector, industry direction, fundamental direction, and even seasonality direction from time to time. Thereby, I align as many forces as I can using real-time Q analysis. Those give truly high probability trades. And I will review once again some of the stock ideas that I shared recently on X. We'll see together how they played out. Disclaimer: this demonstration is for educational purposes only. I am not an investment advisor. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. Options trading can be risky. I do trade them. You may refer to the characteristics and risks of standardized options document from OCC to decide options trading is suitable for you or not. I use the Q systems and only Q systems in my trading. Q has multiple components. The technical analysis component is available on TradeStation for the USA market and on Metastock for global markets as well as USA market. And the non-technical components, that is fundamental analysis, sector industry rotation analysis, seasonality analysis, they are available only on Metastock. That was the last slide. Let's continue with a look at the live systems. Last time I tried Metastock was not running. Give me a minute please. Let me try to run Metastock again. Without waiting for Metastock to open, let's continue with a look at the USA market. In the last market recap, well, Metastock has opened. That's fine. That's fine. Let's have a look at the USA market because I already started. In the last market recap, we were here. The market looked very bearish, and yet I mentioned without ambiguity that I was getting ready to buy, but not yet. I was waiting, as I mentioned at that time, for price to come to this trend line support in weekly and this trend line support in daily and stop there. If it happened, I was going to buy, and I also mentioned I would look for some signals on the Q global market breadth charts. We'll come to the market breadth charts later. SPY did exactly what I anticipated. It stopped right at the trend line support and went up from there. However, we don't have any buy signal yet as far as Q is concerned. as far as SPY is concerned. We don't have any buy signal yet. If price continues to go up from here, I'll be happy to buy. Now, if we look back and look at my X ideas that I shared, you would notice that last few days I only shared buy ideas, except one on Friday where I shared a shorting idea. I'll come to those ideas later, the short idea later. But notice that as price bounced up from the trend line support in weekly daily, I was confidently able to share and I took those long trades. SPY held the support and IWM also held the support. Russell 2000 ETF, it came very close to the trend line support in weekly. The congestion area here in weekly came to the daily trend line supports and went up from there. However, unlike SPY, IWM had a nearby trend line resistance. Price could not go above that. Next week, if price can go above the trend line resistance, then that will be time to buy small cap stocks. IWM closed higher for the week. We can see that from the activity bar in the weekly chart. And if I go back to SPY, SPY bounced up from the trendline support. However, it closed down for the week. What about QQQ? QQQ closed higher for the week. Weekly candle shape is indecisive. We also have one indecision at the bottom, bullish indecision at the bottom. Daily stopped at the watermark support, created a false downside breakout. There was no long trade setup. However, it did create a false downside breakout. If we combine the weekly daily for QQQ or for IWM or for SPY, we don't have any buy signal yet. And in DIA, which closed down for the week, down the most, we can see that from the bearish shape candle in the weekly. This is the most bearish. It stayed below the white direction line. If it can regain the white direction line, that may be time to buy stocks. So in the last market recap, I mentioned that I was getting ready to buy. So far, more or less the market ETFs are holding their last week's price level. However, there is no buy signal yet from this external view. This is one issue I am facing with Zenith. Sometimes Zenith does maintenance work during the weekend, and I am seeing unexpectedly it is still showing real-time data as if we are still near Friday's close. That is fine, we will live with that. Let's look at the sector industry stock advanced decline breadth, but this is as if we are looking at it near the close or just after the close on Friday. That's why we have the Friday's picture here, and this 5 days does not include Friday. So we have to keep that in mind because it is showing real-time data. This 5-day is not including the last Friday. So what we see is that in the longer term period, monthly period, it is bearish. 10-day longer term period also bearish over 5-day, but remember this 5-day does not include Friday, it turned bullish. Today 1-day turned bullish. Here 1-day is Thursday, and Friday turned bearish again. So weakness, strength, and then weakness again. If the market goes up next week from sector industry stock breadth also, we'll have a low risk buy point, because we have strength, then weakness, and then if the market goes up, we'll have a low risk buy point from this breadth perspective. If we look at the bucket analysis, this is Friday versus Thursday. It is bearish but not overly so, not oversold, and of course it is not overbought, it's more bearish than bullish. On Friday, percentage of stocks below mid Bollinger Band increased, so it became more bearish on Friday. At present 80%, that's a very large percentage of stocks are below mid Bollinger Band. However, last weekend in the market recap we saw it was probably worse, it improved a bit, but we still don't have any buy signal. It is possible from this sector industry stock breadth analysis and bucket analysis to anticipate a move up next week that may coincide with the market ETFs going up from support. That will be a time to buy, but not yet. If we look at Finder, this is as of Friday. 63% of weekly setups are still bearish. Reversal percentage is the only category that is more bullish than bearish. However, in absolute number, the reversals are much smaller than strength and trend continuation. So together, when we combine strength and reversal, we have to say it is still more bearish. We cannot think of the reversals giving us a signal to buy, because the absolute number of reversal setups is really small compared to the other categories. So we have a bearish picture in the weekly interval, and on Friday it is very bearish. So again, if the market goes up from here, there is reason to look for buy candidates. If it goes down from here, it may not be easy to find short candidates. Having said that, let's look at the global markets, or start with dollar index first. In the last market recap, I mentioned, and it is very useful to review what I shared in the previous recaps and see how they played out. That is the way you gain confidence on a system and techniques, and once you gain the confidence, you may simply keep on trading that. What I mentioned in the last market recap is that so long as this daily trend line support is holding for dollar index DXY, then dollar will continue to remain bullish. That may continue to put a bearish pressure on the market. The weekly shape is indecisive, but the trend line support is still holding. So dollar is continuing to remain bullish. Let's look at the global markets quickly. We may or may not trade in all the global markets. Some of us may not trade in the USA market, but what is important is to gain confidence on the systems and techniques by applying the systems techniques into different markets and see how they work. If they work in all markets that are liquid, then you will have confidence to apply it in your own trading. When all ordinaries was here, came to the trend line resistance, we would look to short, and indeed it came down from there. Those shorts were profitable. Then it came to the watermark support in daily and weekly, and stopped there. It also has a bull release on Friday, and prior to that we have a bullish indecision cluster. If price goes up from here, that will be the time to buy stocks in the Australian market using the concept of box long setup. What about Japanese market topics? Topics interestingly displayed the bearish headwind at the very top in both weekly and daily. Unique reversal signal. Looking at that, you could at minimum protect profit in the long positions, and you could start to look for shorts. Those shorts turned out to be very profitable. Now it is at the yellow direction line. If it goes up from here using the concept of pullback long setup, we may look to buy. If it falls down from here, I will not like to short now. It is too late to short because the recent swing high is far away. Where could we short? We could short using the bearish headwind reversal signal or using the bearish flow after bearish headwind. You can see there was a bearish flow on this candle also, but that candle shape was bullish, so we would not try to buy on that candle, sorry, short on that candle, because the shape of the candle was bullish, whereas this candle would be the short point because it had a bearish shape with bearish flow, and that is the effective first such candle after the bearish headwind. So we could short at either of those points and the swing trades would be profitable. Now it is too late to short. This is also a kind of walkthrough where we look back, apply the Q technique, see where we could buy or short and see how they played out. Still in an uptrend, I look for a pullback buy setup, too late to short. Now China's CSI 300 index. The trendline resistances are still holding in daily. I think I mentioned in the last market recap. If these trendline resistances are broken, that will be the time to buy in the Chinese market. That has not happened yet. It's no time to short because there are watermark supports and trendline supports in both daily and weekly nearby. If we look back, where could we short? This was an obvious short point. That was a flow trend following short setup in CSI 300. That came after a rally while CSI 300 was in a downtrend. So that was the perfect short setup point. Now it is too late to short. Recent swing high is far away and the trend line supports, watermark supports are nearby. Let's look at FTSE now. FTSE displayed the same unique bearish headwind at the swing high, which was also at the watermark resistance. So right on this day, using the concept of headwind as well as box short setup, we could short the UK market, and as price fell, those shorts would be profitable, and it stopped right at the trend line support. So we would also know where to book profit in those short trades. Now we see Thursdays and Fridays candles are very indecisive together. Thursdays has very long lower tail, Fridays has very long upper tail, that is showing extreme indecision, very long upper and lower tails. So I'll refrain from taking any trades. Now the last of the 2 days is of course Friday, that is bearish shape, and we have a trend line support nearby. If next week this trend line support is broken, I am happy to take short trades in the UK market. Currently, I will stand aside and watch to see what it does. And India's Nifty 50 index, remember in the last market recap, I mentioned, as always, before knowing the results, of course, that we had the bearish headwind, but we also had a trend line support in weekly. I mentioned if that weekly support was broken, I was happy to short. That support was not actually broken. This week's candle shape is indecisive. Price stopped at the daily trend line supports. If price can go up next week, that will be a low risk buy point. If it breaks down, that will be a short point, but not in Nifty 50, because for Nifty 50 the low risk entry point was it will be far away. But if it breaks down, I'm sure there will be individual stocks to short in the Indian market. Now we looked at the USA market charts, the external view, we looked at the technical breadth, we looked at sector industry breadth. We didn't look at the internal health check. Let's look at that. One reason I didn't look at it earlier was because actually my market breadth processing was going on after I updated Windows. So it is complete now, so I can open the USA market breadth total view chart just to make sure it is the latest date. Yes, 29th September. Okay. Now in the last one, let's review again. It's always useful to look back at my previous analysis, how I was looking at the market and how it played out. In the last market recap, I mentioned about the Phoenix that came after price already dropped. I mentioned about the Bingo that is throwing baby out with bathwater. All the signals are thanks to Mr. Ian Woodward. May him rest in peace. And what I mentioned in the last market recap is that I was looking for a large accumulation count and or an Eureka signal. Those are bullish signals from market breadth perspective. Those are colored in cyan green. And as we can see this week, we don't have any cyan green color. We have no accumulation count. We have no Eureka signal. So I'm still waiting for those signals before buying. Why I was looking for a reversal signal on the bullish side was because the market was oversold. Looking at the 3-month new high low, it was hitting the oversold territory, and also very importantly, percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average was hitting the extreme low. I am looking for them to go up, along with actually those will be driven up significantly by the Eureka or accumulation count that has not come yet. So from external view and internal view both, ETF view as well as market breadth view, I'm still waiting for the buy signal. I'm not looking to short now, except in some industries that were very strong earlier. Let's start with that. I shared a tweet, and it is always useful to go back to the tweets and see how I analyzed them during market hours with something in mind. What was that in my mind? Let's look at that. I was on a road trip and I happened to open my computer from the hotel on Friday in the morning session, 10:45 a.m. What did I see and share? Oil and gas equipment and services industry very rapidly declined in score, and this is Friday morning. The market was still up at that time. The market fell down later, but market was still up in the morning session. But this industry was significantly down by more than 2%. This is showing how the score deteriorated from 5 days to 2 days to 1 day to real-time score. And I also looked at the longer term scorecard for the same industry. It used to be one of the strongest, and then it became one of the weakest, both over 1 day and Friday when I'm sharing it, that is real time in the morning session. Not only did it become one of the weakest industries, it became the most decelerating industry at that time. And I mentioned in the tweet that, do you know how to try to catch the top to short? And if you reverse this picture from cyan to magenta, magenta to cyan, then you will also know how to catch the bottom. And here I am not talking about a stock, it's about the industry itself. So when I looked at this industry, to me and to any Q trader, obviously it was a time to look for short candidates in the industry. So I shared the industry snapshot and then I followed up with another tweet with this stock chart. This is SLB. In that industry, what did I see? In the weekly, it had a watermark resistance. Price tried to go above that, displayed a cluster of bearish indecision. Remember, one indecision is important, cluster is very important. Then came bear release. The backdrop color turned bearish and bearish again for this week, as it created a false upside breakout. Price was near jump thrust high even in the weekly period. In the daily, it displayed once again that unique bearish headwind at the very top. Price came down little bit, tried to go up from the trendline support, created a lower high, and on Friday, again this is in the morning session, it was breaking below the trendline support with bearish flow with big move 3 bearish momentum, very strong bearish momentum. Remember, the last bearish momentum came here, big move down 3, that was when the bearish headwind came, and at that time it was at price extreme high. You could actually look to short using the bearish headwind and big move down 3. I didn't notice it at that time. I noticed it on Friday in the morning session, and I actually shorted it using long put options. I didn't check how it closed. Let's have a look at that. It fell down little bit more. Fell down little bit more from the time when I shared it. The breakdown setup is confirmed, and you could short it near the close of the day. I shorted it during the day, then I fell asleep. I have a very small profit. I used long put options. I have also put one profit booking order at 50% of max profit, at least on partial position. That's what I usually do. For naked options, I tend to give partial profit booking order at 50%, and then onwards I watch the remaining position. So this is a short candidate that I shared, and I shorted also. Now see, this industry was going up when the market was falling down, and now the market level I am saying I am looking to buy, but this industry is reversing. Beautiful, isn't it? I'm able to use the 360 degrees analysis to align the forces in my trade's favor, be it in the long direction or short direction, and I think I perfectly timed it. Whether it will make profit or not is not the question in my mind. Whether I timed the trade perfectly and whether I applied the technique with discipline, aligned as many forces as I could in favor of my trades. I did all that. I think it is a perfect trade for me. Whether it makes profit or loss is irrelevant. Now let's look at the buying ideas that I shared. Why not also look at the another short idea I shared recently. All these ideas were shared before knowing the result. So you may go back, review my YouTube videos or X post to find when I analyze them live. And I remember I shared ADM at this point as a flow short setup. The weekly was already bearish in color. Then we had a bearish flow after a price recovery. That was a short point. And as I mentioned, as I did in case of SLB on this Friday, you could short it during the day using real-time precision entry chart. In any case, price fell since the short day and the trade is already in a profit. You could actually book partial profit in the trade if you entered in using real-time chart. So this short idea also worked out. One reason I would consider booking at least partial profit on Friday because it is already oversold for many days. I would not like to close entire position, partial position I would have booked. Let's look at now the buying ideas that I shared. One was Ardmore Shipping, ASC, Ardmore Shipping Corporation. I think I shared it on this day. Let's look at the Q chart that has the one of these days. I think I shared it on this day on Twitter when price was near the high of the candle. At that time, I saw it was about to break out of the trendline resistance. The breakout didn't confirm. So we would not buy on that day. If you use real-time chart, you might have already entered the trade. If you were looking at it near the close, you wouldn't buy on that day. Next day was indecisive candle. Very next day was a bullish candle, and that was already after the breakout. So if you used end of day charts or if you looked at the chart near the market close, this would be the buying day. In any case, price has not come down since I shared the idea and it is continuing to remain bullish, look bullish to me. Ardmore Shipping. Remember when the daily trend line was breaking, it was also breaking the weekly trend line resistance, and what I mentioned in my original post was that this is one of the strongest patterns in technical analysis when a stock is at longer term, here weekly trendline support, and is breaking shorter term daily trendline resistance. Those are very powerful setups, and I always combine that with fundamental strength and industry strength. This stock is continuing to look bullish to me. This analysis worked out. Market fell, but this stock did not come down. Another stock that I shared was a biotech stock, Mirati Therapeutics. Remember when I looked at these two stocks last weekend, what did I do? I looked at Finder. Remember, let's look back. How did I arrive at those two stocks? One way was to look at stocks that were breaking out 1 week ago when the market was still falling. Another way that I used was to look at weekly interval and see which stocks were at weekly trendline support. So I found Ardmore Shipping, ARD, Ardmore Shipping ASC using the stocks that were touching weekly trendline support, and I found MRTX, Mirati Therapeutics, using the bullish breakout while the market was still coming down, and this is how MRTX worked out. Let's look at the chart with historical trend line resistances On this day, the trend line resistance was broken, and I mentioned right at the open using the breakout plus gap setup, you could buy. It has beautifully gone up and it stopped right at the trend line resistance. In fact, at the time of entry itself, we would know where to book profit. One would be when the risk distance was covered, another approach would be when the trend line resistance was hit. So in this case, we would certainly book profit, at least partial profit. Let's look at the weekly to decide if there is any reason to close the entire position. And yes, I'm doing it live. Actually, there is. The weekly also had and has a trend line resistance. So in this case, I wouldn't close partial position, I would close full position in the trade. So ASC, MRTX, these two stocks I shared as long candidates in the last market recap when market was still bearish. They worked out because I didn't only look at their technical charts, I also looked at some theme that is stocks breaking out when market is still going down, and another theme, stocks that were stopping at trend line support in weekly while the market was still going down. So they both worked. Now during this week I shared two buying ideas. One was MT, steel company, ArcelorMittal. Here we have a stock that came right to the weekly trend line support and daily trend line support and stopped there. So you could buy right at this point also using the concept of bounce setup either that day or soon after that. Now in daily it was and it is still inside a triangle. So if one bought on this day or even on this day, I think I shared it on this day actually, when it gapped up. You may check the X post. I think I shared it on this day. I bought naked long calls. I already booked partial profit when I saw price gap up on Friday and then it was starting to come down and the whole market was doing the same. It initially went up but was coming down. If the trend line resistance was not there, then I wouldn't probably try to close the trade quickly. But this was a bounce setup. Bounce setup is a reversal setup, and for a reversal setup, Q guidelines is to book profit as soon as the risk distance is covered, because it's not necessarily that downtrend will change to uptrend from a reversal trade setup. The downtrend may continue, especially we have a trend line resistance here. So for reversal trades, I like to book profit more quickly than for trend continuation trades, especially when the market is not so bullish as is in the case. So MT was a long trade I shared on Thursday. I actually bought long calls and on Friday I closed it looking at the market. Of course, when I say market, I didn't only look at the market charts, which let us look at it now. I looked at the market breadth charts. I looked at the market ETFs futures and market breadth also. So this is the breadth of Nasdaq on the left, breadth of NYSE on the right. I should highlight here. Nasdaq breadth on the left, NYSE breadth on the right. The ETF itself opened higher for QQQ and soon after that it quite rapidly came down. For SPY it was worse. Very nice higher open and very fast sell off. While the ETFs were doing that, you can see Nasdaq advanced decline was quite high at the open above 1500, then sold off. NYSE advanced decline above 1500 open, sold off, closed negative. Interestingly, Nasdaq up down volume did not come down, though NYSE up down volume came down and turned negative. So there is some ambiguity in the Nasdaq breadth chart, NYSE breadth chart. If the up down volume was also bearish, then we would know that it was clearly bearish, but it was not so bearish. Yes, it sold off, but the up down volume did not come down. So that means, what does it really mean? It is unambiguous. The signal is unambiguous as far as up down volume is concerned. Some people were buying more volume than selling. That is unambiguous. Whereas other pockets are showing weakness. There is one pocket at least that is showing strength. That may also support the idea. It is not confirmed, the idea that market may go up next week. Well, let's look at the major index breadth. So here we are looking at more drill down breadth, that is from the NYSE Nasdaq. We are now looking at Russell 2000, Dow Jones Industrials, Nasdaq 100 and S&P 500. The ETFs themselves all sold off very rapidly. Russell advanced decline turned negative after higher open, and that was true for all the major indexes. Russell 2000 up down volume also sold off, but interestingly, up down volume for Dow Jones Industrials did not sell off, closed positive. Up down volume of Nasdaq 100 did not sell off, closed positive, and even for S&P 500, up down volume didn't sell off. So when we look at the four major indexes and the two composites, we see actually up down volume held up quite well, though the ETFs futures themselves and many stocks also came down. So it is showing some strength under the hood. Now if I look at the mega cap chart, mega cap custom index, that is part of Q Global Market Breadth, let's see how the mega caps did. Mega caps opened higher on Friday, but then sold off from the open, but it still closed higher than Thursday. So that may also support the idea that it is possible for market to go up next week. Now, why I came to the market breadth, I always look at them, of course, during my daily trading. Every day I look at these Q systems, but I also came to those breadth charts to explain why for MT I took a long call position on Thursday and why did I close it on Friday. Because of that market ETFs selling off after higher open, almost an identical pattern that we saw in MT. If I go to the intraday chart of MT, it opened higher and then rapidly sold off. So in any case, this stock was still profitable, a long trade, and the last long trade that I remember of and I shared publicly was SE. And all these I shared before knowing the results. I remember I tweeted about it on X on this day, long before market closed. The stock was already up by about 9% when I tweeted, closed more higher than that. And I think when I shared it, it already had big move 3 bullish momentum. So I took a long naked position in SE, and as price went up, I think in 2 days, on this day, after 2 days after entry, I had hit 50% profit. So GTC order on partial position was hit. I closed half position with 50% profit. Then it continued to go up and it hit 100% profit also very quickly. So I didn't wait. I have a thumb rule that I use. If on the entry day for naked options, I have about 30% profit, I take partial position off, book profit. In 2 days or so, if I have 50% profit, I don't wait. And within a week, if I have 100% profit, I don't wait. I book at least partial position. And again, in this case, it was a stock that was recovering from very low price point. Let's look at the chart with historical trend lines. The more you use the Q systems, the more you will see how it works to take not only trend following trades but breakout trades, reversal trades. This was a clear breakout trade at a very low price level. I shared it, I took it, I booked profit. Now, it was a breakout trade setup, but Q systems is unique in several ways. It also gave a trend following long setup, and I mentioned it earlier. The flow setup is not very simple. It is very effective, very profitable, but it is not so simple like other trend following trades. It not only takes trend following long and short trades. Remember, for SLB we had a short trade using bearish flow as well as breakdown, and here we see it didn't only have a bullish flow, it actually signaled a flow trend following long setup. So price was still at a very low price level. We couldn't say that it was going to have a higher high yet. We knew it had a higher low. We didn't know we would have a higher high yet, but Q tried to anticipate and not only show us the flow signal momentum, it also tells that I am anticipating, the Q said that I am anticipating it to go up to have a higher move. So this was also a flow long setup. The more you use the Q systems, you get comfortable with taking the trades when the signals appear, and I took AC as a long trade, I made profit. So these are the only ideas that I shared, no pick and choose actually. I shared AC and MT on long side. During the week I shared, these are during the week, I shared ASC MRTX on the long side in the last market recap. ADM also I shared on the short side, not long, earlier. And on Friday I shared SLP on the short side. So I'm sharing trades on long side, short side both. Some are breakout, some are trend following, some are reversals, and as you can see the success rate is very high, and that is what matters. It matters for what? Firstly, it matters to build one's confidence on the systems and techniques, and then you will, or I will have to work on our discipline to follow the system. Once the system is proven to be profitable, all we need is to follow it, not try to second guess the decisions. Now I will not try to look for new trades. Will I look at new trades? Let's go back to SPY chart. Well, I already looked at the market detail. Why not we look at the futures also? Let's see if we have additional insights. Remember in the last market recap, once again, I look at the futures every day, look at the ETFs every day in the market recap, so I may not have time to share every week all the charts, but notice last week we were here and I was anticipating for ES, S&P 500 futures, to come and hit the weekly trend line support, daily trend line support and stop there. It did that. But we don't have a buy setup in any way. We have a bullish cluster. I am always aware of that when that happens. So I am very happy to look for buy candidates if market goes up next week. And like IWM, let's say RTY, if it also hit the trend line support. Yes, here it did even better, and that is what happens sometimes. The ETF is open during market hours, but the futures are open overnight. So sometimes you may not see the ETF hitting trendline support because the futures might have already hit the support probably during overnight markets. So here now we see that RTY actually hit exactly the trend line support in weekly daily, went up from there. But again, like IWM, RTY was and is still inside a triangle. I'll be happy to buy if this trend line resistance is broken. So far no additional signal we are getting, but we are getting more confidence on the Q techniques. I hope so. NQ, indecisive shape in weekly, bullish indecision, and there is something encouraging in the daily. Lot of bullish indecisions at the low. Remember the bullish indecision cluster or bearish cluster, when it happens at the top, they are not setups. We can get ready to trade and pull the trigger as soon as we have a trade setup. So we could get ready using the bearish indecision cluster here, then short it once the bear release came. That was at swing high, and now at swing low I see bullish indecision cluster. That is encouraging. So I'm going to confidently buy if price goes up and gives a proper buy setup. And YM, we saw Dia was the weakest of the market ETFs. Yes, it is very weak in weekly. Here again some hope is there. No setup, no signal, but hope, because there is a cluster of bullish indecision. If price goes up from here, I will not like to buy Dow Jones Industrials. I don't like to buy the ETF or futures. I will not like to buy industrial stocks also because DIA is the weakest. But if the futures ETFs go up from here, there are reasons to look for buy candidates in strong fundamental stocks. Now one stock let's look at. I think I will not look at many stocks. Let's just look at one stock. Bumblebee, BMBL. No, sorry, sorry, not Bumblebee, just Bumble. I think it is a matchmaking company. It came to weekly watermark support. And because the weekly has watermark support in daily, though it is not drawn, we know the watermark support is there in daily also. Any longer term support resistance is implicitly available for shorter term. So what I was seeing is a longer term support, and on Friday it did try to break out of the shorter term resistance. Remember my another post, this is one of the strongest patterns to buy at support of longer term interval. So I am keeping an eye on it. It tried to break out of the resistance but failed and closed lower, but it closed higher than Thursday's close with very high volume shown by the dot on the activity bar. So if it goes up from here, I am happy to take a low risk buy. On Friday though, the market sold off and not Bumblebee, Bumble sold off, but it still closed 3.25% higher. And I looked at the fundamentals. Let's look at it. Uh, Not here. Let's see if it will run Q Vital, because Zenith was giving some issues. Let's try. Well, it doesn't seem to be working. No problem. If I remember, okay, give it a few more seconds. Sorry about that. Trying to fetch the Refinitiv code. If it is successful, it will get the scorecard and the peer stocks. I am more interested in the scorecard. Yes, scorecard is here. Let's look at it. This is what I saw. The stock is at a very low price level on technical charts at weekly support, trying to break out from daily resistance, and ISO valuation is medium, but see the earnings growth, huge earnings growth, and rapidly reversing from very large negative growth to medium, also very large actually, extreme large negative growth to very large negative growth to quite high positive growth. You can see that in the picture also. So this is a valid reason to look for a buy setup, and even better, the revenue pattern is also following a similar graph. And again, I completed the scorecard. See, though the market sold off, 62% of peer stocks are actually up on Friday. So if I look at the industry score, it is still showing real time, so it's not updating properly. It is as if we are still on Friday, but we have some reason to buy at the industry level because we have high acceleration over 5-day period. But for this stock, the thing that brought me to the stock was the technical chart, that it was at longer term support trying to break out of shorter term resistance and the high growth. So if you think about it, the stock was selling off, sold off when the earnings growth was negative, and now it is stabilizing, creating a nice double bottom in weekly. I think if it breaks out of the daily trendline resistance, that will be a low risk buy point, BMBL. That pattern is what brought me to this stock, high growth stock. We may keep an eye on this stock's industry also on Monday if the market goes up. That is how I am able to easily look for buying candidates as well as shorting candidates in any market, and I try to align as many forces as I can with my trade's favor. The result is obvious from the ideas that I share always before knowing the results. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in my next weekend's market recap. Have a great weekend, and as I always say, as these live examples show, there is no reason not to do that. I truly believe that. Trade profitably. Thank you.